Hey y'all, it's Suzette Viernon and welcome to my channel where we're redefining our 60s on our own terms. If this is your first time, a hearty welcome. I hope you've been enjoying your introduction to me. Well, no, I guess you would not. This might be your introduction, right? Well, if it is, I am 65 years young, and at the point where I early retired, I was thrust into some decisions that I had not planned on making. I had intended to work until I took my last breath, but life started lifing, and before I knew it, I was early retired without a plan B. And so I've had to redefine my life, not from the standpoint of what I've been taught, what I've been conditioned to do, what I prided myself on for so many years, that, by the way, was a definition that wasn't based on my authentic experience of myself, but what I had been taught to chase, to achieve, to run for. And so if I achieved my goals, if I got the house, got the man, got the car, then my self-definition was positive. But if anything happened in my life where I was not able to accomplish the goals that I had for myself, then my self-esteem took a hit. And the beautiful thing about early retiring is I had no other goals to chase. So I had to figure out who I was from the inside out. And I don't know how many high achieving women have actually taken sufficient time to fully flush that out without a conditioned way to think of it passed down from generations to generations and reinforced by this world system. So I had to check out of the world system and start really asking myself some questions and really start to get curious about myself, who she was, who she is, who she wanted to be. And so, yeah, that's been my journey. With this channel, I have chronicled some of that, looking at what life is like in your 60s. You know, so many changes happen in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your health, in your wellness, your skin, you know, just different things that happen. Your reproductive system. So many things happen when you are in your 60s. And I had looked for some information on this very platform, YouTube, for someone dark-skinned with kinky hair like me. And sadly, a lot of the posts that I saw, a lot of the channels that I saw at the time did not have people that looked like me. Either white people were giving advice about aging, or people with a lighter skin color than me, a different hair texture. And I wanted somebody to look like me because I was looking for something that actually those folks didn't really need. I needed something for a dark-skinned woman. And so I decided to create it myself. So if this is your first time, this is just a Cliff Note version of why I started this channel. Right now, however, you stumbled into a series that I've been doing called the Redefining Love Series, where I am talking about how to properly vet a relationship partner. So, hey, this is a topic that I feel like has not gotten enough attention and enough context so that women, whether you're 18 or 80, could understand not just the concept, but the context, and how to reverse engineer from where you are to where you started, right? And then set a course for where you want to be. And so I'm hoping that with this relationship, this Redefining Love series, that I can help you to kind of backtrack, to take a look at where you've been, how you got to where you are, right? Backtrack some. Hit the reset button. And then plot a well-intentioned, thought-out course to where you really want to be. And I'm hoping to help you to have what you need to lay the groundwork. And if anything that I share inspires you to want to know more, then reach out. I'll be happy to talk with you about how we can partner together to help you to get where you want to be. Okay, so that's kind of it. Listen, I lift my head up now. Now you see the rings in my glasses. So let me just keep my head down a little bit. It feels weird to have my shoulders down like this, but anyway, it is what it is. But let's talk about deal breakers. Now, let me clarify some things that I've learned about deal breakers. Deal breakers are not your preferences. Deal breakers are another way of describing your standards for love. Okay? What makes a deal breaker different from a preference is something that you would like to be a certain way. If it's not that way, it's not going to have any real significant impact on who you are fundamentally. Right? It's just what you like, what you've been conditioned to like. And while there's nothing wrong with you having what you like, there are many people who are using that as a measure for whether someone is relationship material or not. And I think you should lead with something else that is even more important than your preferences. A deal breaker is something that you know you cannot live with. It goes against the very fiber of you. It goes against who you are, how you are. It goes against the very DNA that you have from the divine that created you as you are for his glory, for his purpose, to represent as you, to take up space as you, and to be able to have your own sense of agency, your own say, your own expression, your own territory, your own prominence in the world. To me, that's a great definition for agency. Your own prominence in the world. What makes you you. And you know that it's not in alignment with who you are and the divine compass in you that's set to resonate and to send an energy pulse to the part of you that knows, that wants to lean in or pursue or to go after what's yours, that's calling for you to apprehend it. Anybody whose energy is in conflict with that is not your person. And your job is to get so clear about that you can practically ascertain whether this person is going to be good for you or not. It is a deal breaker. It's not like setting a New Year's resolution where, sadly, it's obvious that people don't know what a resolution is, because a resolution isn't something that I would like to do. A resolution is, I have resolved that this is what I am going to do. There is a commitment to it, and there is a conviction around it. There's something around it that is so tethered to where you are, and you know you have to get a grip on it, or you know you have to apprehend it, and you have to do it now. You don't need anybody to cheer you on. You don't need to go through anybody to see if it's all right. There's something inside of you. There's a gut feeling inside of you that is tethered to something bigger than you that knows it's time for you to pursue that. So by that definition, it's not a resolution if you don't have that degree of clarity, commitment, and conviction around it. So much and so that you will accomplish it, because the conviction is tethered to something deep and profound that knows you got to do it, and you got to do it now. And it will not allow you to rest unless you do. Okay? So, yeah. So your deal breakers are your non-negotiables. Okay? Some deal breakers are domestic violence, name calling, threats, right? Your emotional health. Wanting more for you than they want for you can be a deal breaker. Feeling alone in your marriage can be a deal breaker. Feeling like you are in it by yourself. A covenant breaker. Someone who has broken your vows. Who has not done what they said they were going to do. Betrayed trust. Somebody who betrays your trust. That can be a deal breaker. Hidden motives that are detrimental. Right? Married in name only. No accountability, no consideration, making promises that they have no intention of keeping. Lying to you. Not being ready to relate. No emotional intelligence. They might, meaning they're not attentive, they're not empathetic, they don't desire to understand. They are offended by your honesty. Their ego is more important to them than you are. And here is one especially for church women. Using scripture to shame you. Now, I'm just giving you examples of deal breakers. Deal breakers are just as unique to you as the way you see the world, the way you take up space in the world. So I will not assume that this is a deal breaker for you. Some things are not a deal breaker for you. There are some things that your pain has erected as a deal breaker because it doesn't know any different. I'll give an example that's not related to marriage, but I do think it is something that can be. Right? Respect is something that is very, very important to men. But everybody's definition of respect is not the same. For one man, this is disrespectful to him for you to seek help outside of him without asking him first. Right? To another man, it is disrespectful for you not to communicate honestly what your needs are. To still others, disrespect is you spending time with your girlfriends. To another one, you having male friends is disrespect. You see where I'm going with this? Everybody's deal breaker when it comes to respect is as unique as their experience. And for so many of us, our preferences and what we think are our deal breakers are tethered to unresolved pain. And a definition that your pain wrote for you. But it's still not authentic to you as a person and as a partner. I'll give you an example from my life. A deal breaker for me was I was not going to care about a man more than he cared about me. I think I talked about this in a previous episode. That was a deal breaker, right? And while it makes sense, if you look at it through the lens of a man loving his wife like Christ loved the church, then it makes sense. But the way my brain processed it, however, was I thought that something that he was doing or not doing meant he wasn't as into me. What I did not understand caused me to think, oh, this is a deal breaker. So I've got to cease, desist, cut it off, walk away. And as God would have it, I kept dating and could not find anyone who could compete with the experience that I had of him our first date. And then so I sat down with myself and said, what is it really that caused you to end this relationship so abruptly? It wasn't tethered to something authentic to me. It was tethered to an unresolved fear that made me misunderstand his motivation. So when he didn't call me 24 to 48 hours after our date, my pain said, he doesn't like you as much as you like him. If you stay with him, you're setting yourself up to get what you've been getting before, where you've been doing the heavy lifting, where you've been attracting men who are emotionally unavailable. And no matter what you do, they don't seem as interested in you as you are interested in them. They're not giving you the attention that you need in order to feel seen and to feel safe with them. Well, what ended up happening was the part of me that remembered that anger, unresolved anger, can distort things, considered another possibility. It considered a possibility other than he's just not that into you. It considered a possibility other than he doesn't like you as much as you like him. It considered that because I felt threatened, I was not brave enough to step fully into the light and own that I liked him. And my liking him the way that I did scared me. So, as God would have it, I called him up and I told him, I said, you know what? I said, I need to admit something to you. I have to admit that the reason why I ended things so abruptly was because I really liked you. And when you didn't call me back within 24 to 48 hours, I figured you didn't like me as much as I liked you. And I was afraid that because of the way that I have behaved in previous relationships, I would put myself in a very harmful, emotionally harmful situation. That I just didn't have what I needed to withstand. Right? And I didn't say it exactly like that, but I said it in a way that he understood. Excuse me, I had to bring my galaxy back up. And he said, okay. He said, well, I was going to call you. It was a Monday and Tuesday that he didn't call. He said, I was going to call you on Wednesday. Okay. I heard that. And then he said, well, can we try again? Now, the old me would have said, oh, if you had just waited a little longer, he would have called you. So maybe you just need to wait a little longer, which is valid. But the me that had gotten clearer about who I am so I could show up honestly and fully, especially since this moment was calling for me to own what I know I needed in order to be in a relationship with him, to own it and put it out there. And so I told him, I said, yes, I said, with us just getting to know each other, your calling me assures me that you're in this with me. It assures me that I don't like you more than you like me, but that we are both interested in each other and are willing to give one another what we need. In that case, it was that you can give me what I need to feel safe in this relationship. And he said, okay. He said, so when do you start, feeling a little nervous? Like, what is your call cycle? Like, how soon do you need me to call you so that you don't feel nervous or anxious about whether I am as in this as you are. I said, well, okay, so Wednesday was when you were going to call. He said, yeah, I was going to call Wednesday. He said, and to be honest, the reason I was going to call is because I had been reading books that say if you call too quickly, that you can scare a woman off because you come across as being too thirsty. And I said, well, that's not me. I said, because I like you. I said, so in order for me to feel comfortable, if I know that Wednesdays, and he said, yeah, Fridays too. I said, yeah, I noticed. Well, I didn't say it then. It's Wednesdays, Fridays. He said, is that enough? He said, because the way my schedule runs, those are the days that I am most available and that I would naturally call you. Anyway, he said, now I'll call you more if you need it. I said, no. I said, Wednesday and Friday is fine. And the reason I was able to say that wasn't because of what he said. It was because God tapped me on the shoulder and said, start out the way you plan on holding out. You know you're not a telephone person. You know you'd rather spend quality time with a person, doing things with them, than talking on the telephone. You use the telephone mainly to update somebody, if there's something you want to know, information you want to share, then yes, you talk on the phone. But using that, having long talks on the phone is not your thing. So you don't want to start something that later on you're going to regret. You don't want him calling you every day. You don't want to talk for 4 or 5 hours every time he calls you. That's not you. The reason why this was a deal breaker was because you had an insecurity around it. Not necessarily because it was tethered to something authentic and real inside of you. So it takes some work for you to figure out what is a preference and what is a deal breaker. A deal breaker would have been if I was more motivated for the relationship and I found myself doing the heavy lifting and he wasn't putting forth the effort. That would have been a deal breaker. But we were able to have a real conversation and negotiate, because it didn't have to necessarily be you call me within 24 to 48 hours after every date. That might be what another person needs, but not me. My thing was, you are interested enough to put in effort in a way that is meaningful enough to me that it keeps me engaged and interested and moving forward toward our ultimate goal, which is to see if we have the stuff for a long-term relationship or if we don't. So this I kind of did without my notes, because I'm grateful that I gave you that example. Just remember, your deal breakers should not be tethered to your woundedness and your insecurity. Right? Your deal breakers should be tethered to the core of who you are and what you need to thrive as you. I want it to sink in. Because a lot of our deal breakers are around preferences. And there are too many testimonies of how the person who was their perfect match was not the person they would have picked for themselves. That's when you got to trust God and know better than you know. But you have to also know yourself well enough to know how you want to feel, how you need to feel. Right? In a relationship. What lights you up? What fuels your soul's joy? What makes you feel seen and heard and that you matter? What reinforces and supports the trajectory that your life is divinely purposed to go in? Your lean, your divine lean. You don't want somebody in your life who's going to constantly make you feel like you're arm wrestling with them. You don't want somebody in your life that's passive aggressive, that says they support you with their words, but their actions don't. You don't want somebody who sends you mixed signals and gets you so confused you don't know which end is up. That's why these guys that send mixed signals, get out as quickly as you can, because if you don't, they'll have you so scrambled up in your head, you don't know what to believe. If a person is sending you mixed signals, I'm telling you, that is a deal breaker. They constantly keep you off balance, constantly keep you second guessing yourself. Gaslighting is abuse. It truly is. Love bombing is abuse. A person that does so much for you till you can't catch your breath. You feel overwhelmed. They're just doing too much and it's coming too rapidly. It's almost like you're being flooded to the point you can't really think. And love bombing sometimes doesn't necessarily feel bad. To a person who is starved for attention, you can misread that and think that means that person is truly in love with you. Not understanding that a person that love bombs you can't keep it up forever. If they're bombing you and rushing you 9 times out of 10, they have a hidden agenda. And 9 times out of 10, you would not agree with it if you knew what that agenda really was. What job description they want you to hold for them and why they want you to hold it. Doesn't usually fare well. And it's deceptive. They want to knock you off your feet. Not because they think you're worthy or you're worth it, but they want to knock you off your feet so that you are so confused that you don't see, that you can't check in with your intuition. So, okay, I've said a lot, and I really want to hear what you really think about what I have shared. So please leave a comment. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel if you like what I'm putting down. And so this is it until our next episode. Okay? Bye for now.